Hello and welcome to another edition of Lightest and Best, where we're going to look at the Spyderco Southard today. And this has a G10 scale that's orange. I purchased it recently, and the tools we need to take this apart include a driver with Torx bit. This has the T10 and T6 Torx bit, which should be adequate to do our restoration. I also have the nano oil and the blue Loctite. So we'll go ahead and get on it today. On this knife you have a pivot and two standoffs. We'll go ahead and undo the screws from the two standoffs. The original Spyderco Southard had three standoffs. However, the smock modification, of which this is, cut off the final standoff and the lanyard hold as well. It changed it from a longer knife to a 3-inch blade knife. He also did other modifications. He changed the handle scales. He crowned the spine of the blade. He did a lot of things to it. He developed a matching pivot collar and over travel stop on the clip side. Now we're going to go ahead and undo the pivot. This is a T10 Torx. I'm going to move these out of the way for later use. And we'll see if we can get the knife to come apart now. There we go, and there's the orange G10 scale, which isn't stock, and the titanium liner. See if we can get the titanium liner off. And there we go. As you can tell, there is a steel race and a captive bearings on the Southard. And we get the blade off, and you can see the captive bearings on the other side of the blade as well. We'll take the pivot out. The other bearing doesn't really want to come out, but we'll go ahead and get it out. And well, anyway, that's pretty much the disassembly of the knife. We'll go ahead and lubricate the inside of the knife. We've already cleaned it off with some Windex and some paper towels, and we'll move the lubricant from the 10-weight nano oil there, and we replace the pivot. We move the pivot around to disperse the oil around a little better, and then we lubricate the other bearing race on the other side. And we place the pivot there as well. Next, we need to put the screw back into the pivot and the pivot into the D-shaped hole in the front of the blade handle. And we need to place the standoff. The standoffs are unique in that they're not symmetric. On this side they have a D-shaped hole, as you can tell, and accordingly on that side of the standoff they have a D-shaped hole. However, on the show side it's a round hole, so you can't flip around these pivots. They're unique to each side. Now we're going to fix the standoffs with their body screws. That's using a T6 Torx bit wrench. And we'll put a little bit of Loctite. It's hard to get just a little bit of Loctite out of this Loctite tube, but we did it successfully there, and we'll put the next body screw in the standoff. We make sure that the pivot collar, which is made of G10, is secure. And now we're going to be lubricating the blade. We start with the detent track with our 10-weight nano oil. We lubricate the entire detent track, and we put a little bit of lubrication where the detent ball goes, and then rub that around. We also want to lubricate where the bearings interface with the blade around the pivot. And now we're ready to install that. And then we lubricate the other side of the blade where the bearings go. And now we're ready to place the other titanium liner in the bearing with its race. You have to sort of finagle it to get the standoff side and the pivot side on at the same time, or they don't fit well. There's such a tight tolerance between the two. And there, we got it on just perfectly. Now it's time to install the other side, the show side of the G10 scale. So we get our screws, we'll apply a little bit of Loctite. That's a little bit much. We'll clean it off on a paper towel. And we install the body screws with our Torx bit driver. And we'll install the second body screw to the standoff with our Torx driver. And next we do the pivot screw. Again, a little blue Loctite. a little bit much, and we clean the excess off. And drop it in the pivot, and then this is a T10, changing over our Torx driver to T10 and securing that. There we go. Both sides are secure. Next, we're going to be checking the blade if it centers well. As you can tell, it's a little bit favoring the show side, so we're going to be tightening the pivot on the show side a little bit until it brings the blade back to center. A little bit more. We've almost got it there. There, it's in perfect center. And we'll see how the action is. Flips nicely. It's not too tight. It's still in good centering. Now we've got the blade well centered, and it's flipping nicely. It's much smoother now that we've lubricated it. And so that's the disassembly and cleaning video of the Spyderco Southard with smock modification. Thanks for watching.